Good morning. For anybody that doesn't know us, my name is Sarah Bowers, June Maple, and Roger Frick. And we make up the team that worked on the restoration of the Labyrinth, deciding what to do, how to do it. There was a lot of choices to make. It became very complicated. And I reached out to a resource I have, John Ritter, who is very well known about labyrinths. And he is no longer, doing that kind of thing. But he said, I have a friend, Roger Frick, who handles the labyrinths at St. Luke's United Methodist Church. And he's willing to talk with you. And so that's how that great journey began, the three of us, working on this project, restoring this labyrinth that we installed in 2010. So it has been a long time, and it was time to really do some changes to the labyrinth to make it more walkable. And I'm really happy that I had these two people with me on this project. It's been a great time for us. And so just a little time to introduce us, to share a little bit about the project, and so that you understand sort of how this all came about. June, do you want to step up here?
Sorry. Okay. For me, it all started about a year ago. Actually, it started before that because Rob's been mowing the Labyrinth for the past 3 years and doing an admirable job of it, and we really appreciate all that he's done with all that. He spent a lot of time doing that. But for the renewal of the Labyrinth, it all started about a year ago when we were working on the Labyrinth for the summer solstice. The path was practically non-existent. Renewing the Labyrinth was a perfect legacy fund project. I talked with Wyatt and Sarah about this, and we all agreed it would be a good thing. So early this spring, I talked to Sean at Frady's Landscaping about the project, and he was very interested in doing it. And at that time, we had not really connected with Roger at this point, but I kind of brought it up and touched base with him a bit. Throughout this project, there's been lots of texts and phone calls between Sarah and me, or texts between the three of us, or texting Sean, lots of it going on. Sarah connected up with Roger, obviously, and that he was very willing to help us out, which really thrilled us because we kind of didn't know much about how to do this. He's sort of an expert here. So, and we needed a tiller for Roger to reestablish the path, and our own Musser family loaned us one, which was very nice. I'm skipping the part where I talk about Roger because he can talk about that. Rob came over after he had finished tilling out there to make the new wider path, and we spent some time picking up clumps of greenery and tossing it away so that it was gone. And then after that, Frady's came right over with a load of mulch and the landscaping crew. And in one day, they did all the mulching and installed the garden arch that Sarah had bought previously. Okay. So at this point, we have a beautiful labyrinth, and I use the word woohoo a lot. Woohoo, our labyrinth looked great. Now, in the meantime, we've had violets coming up in the middle of the path, but we're working on that. And my attitude is that nothing is absolutely perfect. And if we have some violets here or there in the path, that's okay. And by the way, if we have anybody in the congregation interested in helping in maintaining our labyrinth, please come talk to me.
Thank you. Thank you, June. And I need to say, I was on vacation twice when most of the work was taking place. So I really credit June and Roger and Rob for so much actual hands-on work on that labyrinth. Okay, let me introduce Roger Frick.
Hi. I enjoy working with labyrinths. I find labyrinths always give us life lessons no matter what. And as you will recall, the path on your labyrinth was getting really narrow, and that's a good life lesson for all of us. We need an easier path. And so the opportunity to work with Sarah and June and reopen the path so it's easier to find and easier to walk, it was a fun project. Unfortunately, I chose the hottest week we had back in early June to do it, but that's the way it works.
And while we're talking about Roger, I just wanted to give him this, and also a round of applause for our volunteer, non-member of the congregation that donated so much time and effort.
And that path was very narrow. In the Legacy Project proposal that we provided, I included a picture, and I have a 3-year-old great-grandson, and it was a picture of him walking the path, and it was almost too narrow for a 3-year-old to walk the path. So just to give you an idea of how much work was required out there, it ended up to be a lot. So now, yes, I have a letter to read to you from our former pastor, Thomas Wyatt Watkins. Wyatt was involved with this project from the beginning, 2010, has devoted much time and thought and work to our sacred space. I credit him for keeping that dream alive, for making things happen over the years, and truly am grateful for his support and guidance in that space. That we are going to continue, yes. That we are going to continue to foster and develop and maintain. Wyatt sent us a letter to read to everybody. And so let me start with this. And I didn't bring my glasses up, silly me. Yes, please. Gotta have the readers, right? I am writing to the faith family I love on the occasion of rededicating the Chartres-style 11th Circuit Turf Labyrinth of Cumberland FBC. Of the many remarkable things that occurred during my long tenure at Cumberland, the installation of this labyrinth is near the top of my list when it comes to my personal sense of joy and satisfaction. While I championed the idea early on, it is fitting to give credit to those who were instrumental in bringing this version into being. Kevin Rose, who oversaw the project in his typical organized fashion, Dan Mack, who brought his architectural skills to the layout, Kevin and others who cut the turf, and Barbara and Hayward Fluitt, who connected this undertaking with an Eagle Scout, Charles Collins, in need of a volunteer project. Of course, in keeping with this day of rededication itself, turf labyrinths are living, breathing organisms in need of constant care and nurture. Many people have contributed to its upkeep. Hayward Fluitt, who for years manicured its path, showing up often on hot summer mornings in his work jumpsuit to mow and weed whack the entire labyrinth in one long breath. Rob and June Maple, who took over for Hayward and did a fine job of filling his, well, very big shoes. Bob and Diane Corin, who over several years saw that the labyrinth was freshly mulched for Easter. Our Ecuadorian friend Hehor, who whacked and mulched it under June and Rob's supervision, and many others who helped to mulch and weed it over the years. But the Cumberland Labyrinth has not been a constant maintenance problem so much as a congregational ministry opportunity and a gift to the community. And so we would be remiss not to celebrate those who conscientiously planned and promoted its events and general use, especially Sarah Bowers, for whom it became a personal mission, indeed a passion, and Stephen Jeffries, whose skills of presentation have made it an inviting space to enter and enjoy, whether by daylight or moonlight. While this historic form of ambulatory prayer is an acquired taste in the realm of spiritual practice, It has been enjoyed here at Cumberland by countless souls over these many years, and for some it has become an indispensable spiritual discipline. May its refurbishment both extend and multiply its value for many in this congregation and the wider community. I have a picture that I believe Stephen Jeffries took of me and my mother sitting on a bench next to the Labyrinth as others walked it. I am thinking fondly of it now as I write, and he wrote this a couple days ago, because this day of dedication would have been my mother's 105th birthday. The Labyrinth measures time, not by days or weeks or even long years, but by ages. To walk it is to rub shoulders with a sacred realm stretching to eternity. That realm to which we all belong, that beckons us to follow, and toward which we all walk, not alone, but together.
The tune that I'm going to share with you guys, it's very dear to me. Something I've sung with some of my choirs, or both professionally or amateur. It comes from a very known prayer called Ubi Caritas. You probably heard this in different settings. It is a very long piece, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. You'll be sitting here for like 8 minutes. But I'm going to do the main section, right? And I thought it would be very proper for what we're doing today. The main lyrics read, "Where charity and love are, God is there. Christ's love has gathered us into one." I invite you to start your labyrinth path through this music. Keep your eyes open, keep your eyes closed, get up and walk if you feel like, whatever the Spirit or the music tells you to do. Ubi caritas et amor, Deus ibi est, congregavit in et in unum Christi amor.
So it's wonderful to be here this morning and for the rededication of your Labyrinth. And I want to start with a thanks to Julia, Sarah, and Shelley for the invitation. And working with you has been an absolute delight. So as Julia said, my name is Ian McIntosh, and yes, I'm an Australian, but I've been in Indiana for 20 plus years, so I don't know if that qualifies me as a Hoosier or not, where the cutoff mark is. You know. But so in my talk this morning, I'll speak about my experience with labyrinths, including some that I've built myself or revamped, and then share a little of their history and significance. And then finally, I'll talk about how we use labyrinths for spiritual purposes. And I see that in the lobby, the foyer, you've got some wonderful books on labyrinths that are great resources. So with the team at the Center for Interfaith Cooperation, I helped create the Indianapolis Spiritual Trail, which you can see here. We believed that every city and town should have a spiritual trail to support journeys of meditation, awareness raising, and personal growth. The experience of just being in nature, which we can call our cathedral without walls, can be life-enhancing and bring you closer to the divine. And Cumberland is very fortunate to have its own spiritual trail right here. So there are 3 labyrinths linked to the Indianapolis Spiritual Trail, 2 that I built myself. And here are some of the images of them and various activities we'd enjoyed there. So that's the principal one, which is very similar to yours. This is one that I revamped for the Unitarian Universalists. I put out a call on the neighborhood listserv for used bricks, and I got thousands, far more than I could use for this. But it was, people really wanted to get involved in that, and it was a wonderful thing. And I've got some other photographs of activities that we've had on the trail, and with a labyrinth exercise that we do. And this is one that I recommend, especially for the younger members of the congregation. You know, you have the smallest one leading the rest, blindfolded, and it's a great exercise in trust and caring. So now here is a image of one of the labyrinths that I built, and this one shows the 4 seasons, of course, when it was first built up on the top left, during floods, and it had been under 10 foot of water, if not more, then covered in snow. And then this bottom right one, which is particularly, exciting for me, in spring. So I built this labyrinth on the White River during the pandemic, often with strangers looking on, what's he doing down there? And where'd you get that rock from, and all this sort of thing. But I wanted to create a venue for mindful walking, and it soon became very popular. When the water department badly damaged it with their mower, persons unknown to me rebuilt it. I thought it was a lost cause. There were just rocks everywhere. But I was so grateful that this labyrinth had now become a part of the community and had a life of its own. It was, I have to tell you, it was one of my proudest moments. I felt that I had made a contribution, and it encouraged me to pursue more of this kind of outreach. But there was something else about this labyrinth, especially the spring version, that was really special to me. While it has now been displaced, it's not there anymore, for about 3 years, each spring, it would be covered in this beautiful, lush green foliage. And now, to give you background on why it was so significant, so when you start the process of building this smaller style labyrinth that I did here, you begin with a cross, and then you turn it into a shepherd's crook, and then add the enveloping arms. So I want you to see here, you can see the shepherd's crook here. So just think of the symbolism here. You begin with the cross, yes? You turn it into a crook, and then you add the enveloping arms. It's just a wonderful, wonderful exercise. And I recommend also drawing one of these labyrinths. And also people do finger labyrinths. Sometimes they'll have 2 labyrinths and they'll use both hands. It's a wonderful meditation. And this prominent central cross is key to the design. In spring, right at Easter, it would be covered in yellow flowers, and for about a week or two, it was truly dazzling, almost miraculous to my eyes. And people would come and take photographs of it and reflect on it. Some would pray here. But let's get back to the story of labyrinths. There's a website dedicated to helping you find one in your city wherever you are in the world. And in Indiana, they are becoming very popular, especially in churches and hospitals. But Indiana also has some very old labyrinths, and perhaps you're familiar with the ones at New Harmony. Yes. So insight into the significance of labyrinths in the early 1800s is evident with this labyrinth. When that German utopian community was established, they created a labyrinth as their first order of business. For them, the labyrinth symbolized the mortal life. The major one still in place today is but a remnant of what was once there. But then, after about an hour's walk, the long, circuitous path on the labyrinth led to a heaven-like chapel in the center, ascribed as a pearl above price and a crown of rubies. The chapel contained a golden book which contained directions for the building of a city where creation could begin again with a promised solution to every ill that flesh is heir to. The same was also true with the building of the Chartres Cathedral just outside Paris in the 1100s. Gothic cathedrals were built to express faith and reflect God's glory, and Chartres is one of the greatest buildings in Christendom. They too began with the building of their famed labyrinth. Just inside the main doors in the nave, there is an enormous stone labyrinth that covers the entire width of the cathedral. But most people don't even notice it because their eyes are drawn upward to the beautiful Chartres blue stained glass windows and the towering ceiling. They are thinking of heaven. So this labyrinth is a wonderful example of sacred architecture. And we have many fine examples of sacred architecture right here in central Indiana. You know, one that comes immediately to mind is the Masonic Scottish Rite Cathedral. And if you've been there, you'll know that the structural dimensions are entirely divisible by 3 and 33, the latter being the age at which Jesus died. So it's meant to help the average person feel more connected to the life of Jesus. And so it is with the labyrinth. It is meant to direct our thoughts to a higher plane, although there is very little in the literature to help guide us on the origins of the Chartres-style labyrinth. The rector of the Cathedral of Chartres, Father Emmanuel Blandot, describes the cathedral as a Bible made of stone and glass. The building itself, he says, offers a powerful experience of Christian faith for all those in search of meaning and purpose. Originally, Chartres was built to house the Veil of Mary, given to the city by King George the Bald in the 800s. They wanted a building to arouse the fervor of pilgrims, and today the church still performs that function, transforming visitors into pilgrims. But no one knows what was the original intention of the architect of the Chartres labyrinth, because evidence of Christians walking it doesn't appear in church records until the Middle Ages, where there are references to walking home to Mary, while others write about how you enter the circle with the rays of the rising sun behind you, as in birth, and the center represents the end of your earthly journey. The return journey is symbolic of the resurrection. Others have argued that the design was first utilized in Western Europe by the knights who had killed St. Thomas à Becket in Canterbury Cathedral on the orders of King Henry II. They were so guilt-ridden by their actions that they created this expanded labyrinth design, like the one that you have here, to aid pilgrims who are unable to go to the Holy Land. In those days, the 1100s, Jerusalem was closed to pilgrims, for it was in Muslim hands, but in walking the labyrinth, they were undertaking a virtual pilgrimage there. Many people today think of the labyrinth walk as the equivalent of a journey to the Holy Land and to Jerusalem. So the design of the Chartres Labyrinth is very ancient, but there are other older examples from ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, including on the walls of a villa in Pompeii, that have a slightly simpler design, like the ones that I've been building. So here's an example from Roman coinage, and another from a painting showing a Christian knight fighting the Minotaur. But it is Scandinavia where we find the most labyrinths, all along the coast of the Sea of Bothnia in Sweden and Finland, and often on fjord mountaintops in Norway. There's hundreds of stone labyrinths. These mostly go back to the 800s, but may be much older. Their ancient purpose is unknown, but some have suggested that there is a Christian dimension being built to baptize the land. In more recent times, they've been used by fishermen to still the waters before venturing to sea. So here's a few examples from Norway and Sweden. This one's high up on a mountaintop. This one's in Sweden, also in Scandinavia. This one is in Venice, one of my favorites. It's a beautiful, beautiful labyrinth. And this one is from England. This one here is from the Riley Children's Hospital here in Indianapolis, where I lead labyrinth walks for public health students every year. And we talk about walking and healing. This one is just from a few weeks back from the Indianapolis Peace Learning Center, where we were also doing contemplative walks of peace. And that's me building a labyrinth during the pandemic. You can't get me away from these things. If I couldn't walk it, I was going to make one myself, inside the house. But now I want to link all of this to why labyrinths are so important for congregations. I've just finished reading this wonderful book called The Way of a Pilgrim. It's by an anonymous Russian Orthodox man in the mid-1800s, and it relates directly to our topic. The Russian pilgrim was inspired by the words of St. Paul in his letter to the Thessalonians to pray without ceasing. But he did not know how to do this, and so he set out on the road to find out. On his way, he meets and talks with strangers, is beaten and robbed. He engages with learned theologians, all while discovering more day by day about the concept of the divine life. His strategy was to say the Jesus prayer over and over, thousands of times a day. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy upon me, a sinner. He finds that the practice of saying this prayer over and over elevates his spirit and gives him insight and peace previously unknown. He used to count the number of times he would say this prayer, gradually increasing the number, but then this eventually merged with his everyday life. His whole life and way of living had become a prayer. The labyrinth is a tool for the faithful, for it calls us to go outside into the world on such a pilgrimage. Some say that it is an opportunity to pray with our feet, but it is also used as a way of finding peace in a chaotic world. We will reflect on the experience later, but do not be surprised, as Sarah was saying, something happens with time inside the labyrinth. You mentioned the ageless nature of the labyrinth. Don't be surprised in the labyrinth if time slows down. So you're just going to go with the flow there. Some people go into the labyrinth with empty minds in pure meditation. Others focus on a particular concern, and they say that the constant twists and turns light up the left and right hemispheres of the brain in an alternating fashion, freeing us from a problem, freeing us to see a problem in a new way. The winding trail becomes a mirror for where you are in your lives, and we can reflect on all the decisions we've been made and the paths we have trodden. It touches our sorrows and releases our joys. Walk with it with an open mind and an open heart. So I think we should now go outside. So yes, just a few words. Just a few words before we have Julia rededicate the labyrinth. I wanted to say just a couple of things about when you do walk this. So, and again, one of the most important things is that you be able to quiet your mind. It's very difficult in this this age of iPhones and pings and all sorts of things, but you're going to try and quiet your mind and become aware of your breath. It's very important in that relaxation. Quieting the mind and becoming aware of your breath, yes, and allow yourself to go at the pace that your body wants to go. Don't rush this. You know, if you think of if this is a representation of our life's journey, there's no need to rush it. Don't rush it. Take your time. And so I want you to think about the 3 stages of this walk, the 3 stages. And the first is releasing, letting go the details of your life. Let it go for while you're in here. Shedding thoughts and distractions, for this is a time to open the heart and the mind and quiet the mind. So that's the first stage, the releasing. The second is receiving. When you reach the center, stay as long as you like, for it is a place of meditation and prayer. Finally, there is the returning, which is about joining your higher power or the healing forces at work in the world, allowing you to find and do the work you feel your soul reaching for.
If you have a bulletin, you may have to let go of a hand to join me in the rededicating of the labyrinth. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. If we don't have enough readers for all, I will join you. From the beginning of time, humans have built structures to represent a past encounter with the divine. Others built space and opportunity to connect and be connected, inspired by that connection with God. Like ancient labyrinths, this one was built for similar means and ends.
We marvel at the gifts,
Ian.
co-creators with the Creator, crafting such sacred spaces for both holy and ordinary journeys, forming us by this sacred architecture.
We give thanks for all that has been done and will be done through this labyrinth, enriching many lives. We give thanks for the Eagle Scout who made it and members of our church who assisted him, for Hayward Fluid and others who cared for it across many years, for Sarah Bowers and June Maple who determined to have it refurbished through a grant from the Legacy Fund, and for Roger Frick, who generously did the work.
We declare this renewed space for grace, for the wonder of both holy and more mundane connections with the divine. We dedicate this space to the gifts that will come of labyrinth walking. We commit ourselves to walk it and to the outgoing care of it, recognizing that the labyrinth is a living thing, vulnerable to the elements and to human use.
Today we dedicate this place. Within these paths, may strangers be welcomed, may the lost be found, may the wounded be consoled, and may the whisperers of prayers of joy and sorrow be embraced.
Today, we dedicate this labyrinth.
Here let there be rest and peace, God's love and hope, with meaning and direction. May all who enter walk on in the name and the way of Jesus again and again. Amen.